I'm back, YouTube. I've got my scotch, got my pipe. Time for a little Friday philosophy, right? What the hell with this weather? As you can tell, I've got my flannel jacket on again tonight. Sitting outside, and it's about 42 degrees, which is just a bunch of BS for the end of April, but welcome to Nebraska, I guess, is the theme of the evening. Weather's weird everywhere, it happens. But this is one, man, I had a job that I was supposed to do outdoors this weekend, and it just ain't going to happen. Rained all day today, supposed to shower on and off tomorrow. We won't see sun here till Tuesday or Wednesday, and life happens, but whatever. Change the schedule up, switch some jobs around, and here we are. But I can see my breath. It may not show up on camera, but end of April, I didn't expect this. But first things first, showing off my Rob Roy that I picked up from Aristocob. And I have to tell you before we get started here, Jandy at Aristocob is amazing. I ordered a couple of things from them earlier, well, late last week. They arrived on Tuesday and opened the package, and it didn't look like everything was there. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but that night I shot off an email and said, hey, signed up for the Cobb Foolery Kit, and didn't look like everything was there. Got an email back from Jandy almost immediately. And the next morning, before I had even checked my email, I got to thinking, you know what? Maybe I did get everything. Well, Jandy and Scott, very apologetic for having screwed up the order, or thinking they may have. And I had to retreat tail between my legs because, no, they had fulfilled the order as was requested. I just didn't open everything up. Everything's so lightweight, it just didn't feel like it was there. So my apologies to Aristocob. They did a great job. Everything was as promised. I just jumped the gun a little bit. My biggest problem was I'd left the package at the office, so I couldn't double check. I just hopped on the email and said I didn't get everything. Well, nevertheless, here we are, Friday philosophy, cool Friday evening. Maiden voyage with the Rob Roy, and I gotta say, good start anyway. For those of you out there who are roughly my age, which is right around 40, when we grew up, the military was a bad deal. And that seems silly, because I grew up in the tail end of the Cold War, where nobody knew what the hell was going to happen. We weren't doing bomb drills or anything like that, but the space race was in full swing at the time, and there were still a lot of questions out there about Russia and their intentions, and America and our intentions. And by the time I was in high school, I'm getting calls from Army recruiters and Air Force and, all the branches wanting to know if military was in my future. And if you grew up in the late 80s, in the early 90s, the military was not the cool thing to do. You're too smart. You need to go to college. You need to this. And so the Army recruiters would call, or the military recruiters, I shouldn't limit this just to Army, but they would call, and I would listen, and then I would politely tell them that I was, I'm planning on college, and they would say, well, we can help you pay for that. No, not going to do it. And hindsight what it is, I wish I would have taken a different route. My father was in the Army, non-wartime, which was always a bit of a disappointment to him. Not that we all want to go out there and shoot people, but my dad, of course, was the son of a World War II veteran, the greatest generation. And I think he always felt like he, by being non-wartime, let his own father down. Well, his own father never would say that's the truth, because nobody wants to be at war. But at the same time, my father really wanted to live up to his own father's image. I was in a different place. My grades were pretty well impeccable, and it's what it is, but I was going to college, so I did. It wasn't really until about 9/11 where I realized maybe the mistake I had made. And I don't think I truly made a mistake. My life is what it is, and I am fine with where I am. But around 9/11 is when it really started to sink into me what serving your country was all about. And that was also about the time where I realized that my generation had been almost brainwashed to believe that the military, that's where only stupid kids went. And that's not true. I know that now. I wish that would have been explained to me better when I was in high school. Because I do have a spot inside of me that's a little bit vacant, because I feel like I did not serve my country, and I have not served my country. I don't know. I am a patriot to the core. I have a flag flying. I have a light on it. I do. I have a belief in this country, and what it stands for and what we've been through. And I am a little remiss that I didn't get that earlier in age. So first of all, to you YouTubers out there watching this that have served, thank you so much for doing what I couldn't or wasn't able to understand at the time, because now I get it. I got it about 15 years ago, but it was still too late for me, because if nothing else, my joints quit on me far before the rest of me did. That said, what really brings this about tonight is a good friend of mine. I am taking in to the big city tomorrow because he has the opportunity to take an honor flight for Vietnam veterans to Washington, D.C. Expenses paid outside of hotel room. Air travel, everything is covered, and he gets to go see the Vietnam Memorial. I'm guessing they'll also probably stop by Korea because of the proximity and dates. But he is so excited, as are many of his brothers in arms that also served, because this is maybe their last chance, and they're still relatively young. I mean, we're talking mid to late 60s, but as a group, they can go and see the memorial and relive some of those memories, both good and bad, and kind of share in that pain and those times in their lives, because we as a country, and I'm a little exempt from this because of my age. But we as a country treated those guys like shit. And I apologize for the language, but it's real. Can you imagine getting spit on when you return home? You know, many of us were athletes or participated in some sort of extracurricular thing. Can you imagine coming back from your basketball game or football game and getting spit on by your own fans? I mean, that's quite literally what happened to these guys, except they had been away for months, potentially even years, and they come back to their home country, and they're booed and they're jeered and spit on. Um, that wasn't the case everywhere, but that was the case in a lot of places. And if you know a Vietnam veteran, if you are a Vietnam veteran, you know very personally what that's about. Uh, these guys don't talk about their service because they don't want to start something. And it wasn't their fault. You know, a great many of them did not sign up for it. And even the ones that did thought they were doing it for the right reasons. And to come home and not be greeted with ticker tape and fanfare has bruised that entire population. Those guys that served have a chip on their shoulder, and rightfully so. Um, I fear for the direction our country is going because that attitude seems to be more and more pervasive. But I won't. I'm going to try not to digress into that direction right now, but merely to celebrate the fact that these guys and women get to go and honor their fellow soldiers that died in a conflict that a great many people felt we should never have been involved with to begin with. And again, I'm not going to get political on whether or not we're there, but what I will say is every Vietnam veteran should have gotten a hug and a handshake and a smile when they returned home, no matter what they went through or no matter what they did. Uh, the military is about following orders and about doing what you're told. And that's what they did. They were fighting for their country, but they were also fighting for South Vietnam. It wasn't just about them. But the fact that they were out there as a show of strength helped and continues to help preserve our own freedoms here in this country. And again, I have to throw a shout out to Pipe and Music. Down in Venezuela, who is learning or has learned over the last 15 years firsthand what dictatorship and oppression is really about. And we, as Americans, Canadians, Australians, whoever might be watching this, we're pretty fortunate to be in the circumstances we are. And it's because of guys like my friend Dan, even though he was in Vietnam. He was fighting on behalf of this country, and he was fighting for freedom for another nation. And again, we can disagree on the politics of what it was, but we should never hate on the guys who did what they had to do, whether it was via the draft or via enlistment. America has been the land of the free and the home of the brave for a reason, and we owe it to all of our veterans, YTPC guys, Gulf War, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea, World War II, whatever the conflict. You guys all have my respect, if nothing else. So, that said, I think I'm going to sign off for tonight. But here's to a little more Friday philosophy. Another sip of scotch. Have a great weekend, everybody. You may see some more videos this weekend. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty wily tonight. Who knows what could happen next. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.